Okay, going to do miberlone, more commonly known as cheque drops. So, quite unusual on this stuff. It has an anabolic transient ratio of 4100 to 1800, so you can see from the offset that this stuff is quite powerful. Its half-life is 2 to 4 hours. Its detection time is up to 2 months. It's very grey with this. It's a veterinary drug. It's had very little human research. Hasn't been made pharmaceutically since 2000. So some of this stuff is best guess, really. Now, doses range between 200 micrograms and 500 micrograms, generally taken about 45 minutes pre-workout or pre-event. It's favoured by strongmen, powerlifters and fighters. Not really advisable for females. No doubt there will have been one at some point that has tried it, but Jesus Christ, I wouldn't recommend it. And it's based on nandrolone. Now, as I said, it's a veterinary drug. It was developed in the early 1960s. I think it was assayed in 1963 by Upjohn. And it was designed to prevent female dogs from coming into heat. However, it is worth bearing in mind that even in veterinary practice, this stuff is not advised for long-term use. One of the big problems with using it on a dog is it turns the dog aggressive. And that's why people use it, for that aggression factor. It is an oral liquid. Now, it is really, really powerful. However, in order to get anything off it from the point of view of muscular gains, you'd be looking at doses of around 5 milligrams a day. And unfortunately, due to its toxicity, they are just not sustainable doses. So don't think taking this stuff is going to aid in growth directly. It's not. It is going to make you more aggressive, and therefore, in theory, you should perform better in the gym, moving more poundage, creating more damage, therefore stimulating more growth. But, you know, if you're thinking of looking at those figures of 4100 to 1800 and thinking, wow, this is really powerful stuff, I can grow off this, and the doses required to achieve that, it's just not plausible. You're going to be very poorly bunny at the end of the day. Now, as I've said with most orals, this stuff shouldn't be taken with food. It gets tied up in non-soluble, non-dietary fats, and obviously passes through. It is toxic. It is very toxic. There's only ever been one study on humans, and it was abandoned partway through because of the levels of toxicity it was showing. As like I said, it's not even recommended for long-term use within animals. Now, it is highly estrogenic. Now, there are some sites out there that will tell you it isn't, because it's nandrolone based. It is. In fact, it converts to dimethyl estriadol, which has a very high biological activity, so it makes it really bad for estrogenic sides. Yeah, and it also has a strong progesterone activity as well. So it's going to be a bitch either way with sides when it comes to stuff like that. It is a high androgen as well, which is why it's not recommended for females. And because it's not affected by 5-alpha reductase, using something like finasteride is not going to lower its conversion rate, because the 5-alpha doesn't affect it. So you're stuck with what it does, unfortunately. Regards usual side effects with LDL and HDL, good and bad cholesterol. Unfortunately, this is just as pronounced with this stuff as it is with most orals. But like I said, the biggest issue by far is its toxicity. Now, most studies have been done on rats, and it has shown that it has actually been able to be administered in a fatal dose. Bear in mind that was 160 grams per kilo, and generally it's taken in micrograms, so you're not going to get anywhere near the levels for fatality. But it's one of the few steroids that you can technically overdose on. As I said, long-term function use. To be honest, long-term, I wouldn't even recommend more than 2 weeks consecutively with this stuff. Anything over 2, you're starting to push it. Now, it is suppressive. Now, a lot of people think because you take it pre-workout, take it to small doses, it's not going to affect. But if you maintain that, so you took it as a pre-workout every day for 2 weeks or more, then you would start to suppress. And its main route of suppression is through LH, luteinizing hormone. It stops the production of that. And that is about it. So, very limited use. Very powerful aggression pre-workout. No real effectiveness in building any muscle mass directly. And toxic as fuck. So it's one of those things that to be honest, you introduced the last week before a competition if you were powerlifting, strongman, that sort of thing, or on the day of a fight if you were a fighter. I don't really see it as having much use in bodybuilding terms. Excuse me. Despite what the numbers say. Maybe last 2 weeks pre to a competition if you were struggling to get through workouts, but to be honest, I think a pre-workout or a strong stimulant would be a better choice, especially when you're already going to be in a weakened state for a diet anyway. The last thing you need to be doing is throwing in something as toxic as this. But there you go, that's what it is. So that wraps up orals. I'm going to move on to injectables next. What I'm probably going to do is I'll do test and anthate, and I'll do sip, I'll do prop, and I'll do test base or suspension. I'm not going to go into all the other esters, it's just pointless. But what I might do is I think I'll do a video on esters and half-lives, so that should make it simpler, and go through them and what the different half-lives are, and we'll do it that way. But I will cover the more common test esters, just so people can refer to them as a one-off easily, and not have to search through for the specific parts of a video that regard to the drug they're taking. So we'll do EQ, mass, sust. We'll probably do a couple of the blends like T400. We'll do Tren-Ace, Tren-Nth, Tren-X or Parabolan. We'll do one rip. We'll do TTM, slow acting one rip effectively. We'll do Primo, MPP, Deca. I'll probably do the bases, so I'll probably do all the bases, so doing EQ and Androlon, Trent, Mass and Test. I'm not so sure I'll do anything else. I may do a couple of the weird ones now. I've been asked to do frog juice. A lot of people probably never even heard of that. It's a pre-workout androgen. It's actually injectable methyltrianolone suspension. But I will probably cover that as well, because that is a bit of an odd one. And then that will be that side of things done, and then we'll move on to estrogen, and I'll do a video about estrogen management, and then we'll look at estrogen spray eyes and suicide inhibitors and SERMs, and then we'll start looking at other drugs like finasteride and Caber, and those other odds and sods like that. So that's the sort of route we're going with this. Right, that's it for now. So take care, and I'll speak to you soon.